One of the first things you'll notice when you're looking up Stratford-upon-Avon and the cool things to look at in England when you want to study Shakespeare's life are that you can visit places like Hall's Croft. And you look up and say, well, why is something called Hall's Croft related to Shakespeare? And it turns out it's related to his daughter, Susanna. And to tell you more about that, this week, we're asking the question, did Shakespeare have kids? You may already know from our earlier episode that Shakespeare was married to Anne Hathaway, and they did have children together. In fact, Anne Hathaway was pregnant with their first child when Shakespeare and Anne got married. Now, their first daughter was Susanna. Susanna was born May 23rd in 1583. We believe Shakespeare left for London after his children were born. Susanna was the first one, and she was the oldest. She would grow up into adulthood and be very healthy. She lived a very long life, but when she got older, she married a man named John Hall. That was all very celebratory. Everyone was quite proud of him for being a physician and thought she made a good match to marry him. Susanna married Dr. John Hall in 1603, which is a big year for Shakespeare because 1603 was not only the year that he performed A Midsummer Night's Dream before Queen Elizabeth, but it was the last time he would perform before Queen Elizabeth because she died that same year and King James came to the throne. Because King James came to the throne, 1603 is also the year that Shakespeare's playing company became the King's Men, coming under royal patronage officially for the first time. This is also the year that Shakespeare performed As You Like It before King James, and is actually recorded that William Shakespeare acted himself in a play by Ben Jonson called Sejanus. I have no idea if I said that right. Susanna had Shakespeare's only granddaughter. Her name was Elizabeth. Elizabeth would grow up and become a beautiful lady in her own right. She actually was married twice, but did not have any children herself. So Shakespeare's descendants ended with Elizabeth, which is why there are no modern day individuals directly descended from Shakespeare, because his direct line ended with Elizabeth. Perhaps the more famous children of Shakespeare are Hamnet and Judith. Of course, Hamnet is the one that it's generally considered Shakespeare named the play Hamlet after. I am not in this episode going to give you my opinion on that story, but it is probably where you think you've heard his name before. Hamnet and Judith were born in 1585. Hamnet would die at 11 years old in 1596. The actual cause of death for Hamnet is unknown. We think that he got an illness or perhaps died of plague, but it's not clear. What we do know is that he did die at age 11, and he's buried at Holy Trinity Church there in Stratford-upon-Avon, which is the same place William Shakespeare himself is buried, as well as his other children. 1596 is the year that William Shakespeare wrote Merry Wives of Windsor, The Merchant of Venice, and Henry VI Part 1. The second twin, Judith, she grew up. She did not die of the plague, but she grew into adulthood, and she was kind of the problem child. She ended up marrying Thomas Quiney, who was considered kind of a ruffian. Shakespeare himself obviously did not like this man at all, and actually Judith married Thomas the same year that Shakespeare died. I have seen historians credit the stress of Judith's marriage to Thomas Quiney as being one of the reasons Shakespeare was driven to an early death. Draw your own conclusions from that, but it gives you a taste of exactly how stressful this was in Shakespeare's life. In fact, Shakespeare would write Thomas Quiney completely out of his will. He redid his standing will the year that he died. He redid it to make sure Thomas Quiney didn't get anything. And he wrote in safeguards into the will to make sure that Thomas did not get a hold of Judith's inheritance. If you want to know more about Shakespeare's kids, a great place to do that would be to visit Hall's Croft in Stratford-upon-Avon. You can also go to Stratford-upon-Avon and see Judith Quiney's house. And you can visit all of their graves at the Holy Trinity Church that is also there in Stratford. Beware the curse on Shakespeare's grave that warns you against moving his bones. But as long as you're not intent on moving bones, I think you're good. And you can go and see all of them there. It's quite interesting. That'll do it for this week. Here I am that Shakespeare girl, Cassie Cash. Thanks for joining me this week. I hope you learned something about Shakespeare and his kids. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the like button, and subscribe, because I'll be coming back next week with even more Shakespeare fun. So thanks again for being here, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.